I would like to call this meeting to order tonight. Today is January 11th, 2018, and this is the Fairborn City School District Board of Education organizational meeting. We will hold our regular meeting after the organizational meeting. And to honor America and our fighting men and women, would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We will start with the oath of office for our newly elected board member, Mary Reister, and our re-elected board member, Andrew Wilson. Mrs. Marshall, would you please administer the oath of office to our new board members?
Everybody can take good pictures. Try not to get in the way.
Can I move?
Can we move? You don't want to. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as members of the Board of Education of the Fairborn City School District, Greene County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is elected and qualified? The answer is I do. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
It's always nice to see a new face on the board, and bringing back a young face with Mr. Wilson. I don't want to say older face. But we've grown to know Mary before this evening, obviously, and we know that she'll step in and do a wonderful job. Mary, I wish you all the best, with the board, and we have fun together. I think the board, there's a sense of collegiality on the board, and I think, if you need any help along the way, don't ask me. Those people, that'll be fine. But no, I think you're going to have a wonderful time at it, and I really do think, people up here on the board, and I can say this from being on the board in the past, you don't sit up here for the pay. But you sit up here for the love of the kids and the love of the district. And I know each and every one of us up here do have that within. And so, Mary, I wish you all the best of luck, and we're happy to have you.
Thank you.
And it's always nice to have another blonde next to me. Andrew, of course, Andy Wilson, he's served on the old board, of course, and then came in with the new board, and Andy has served as our president in the past, and we think he does a great job at what he does. We really don't care a lot for him, but we really do like Donna. but Andy does. He's well respected in the community and here in the school district, and we really are lucky to have him back. So I thank the both of you, and good luck. Any other comments from the board?
No, I was just going to say that when we found out, like last spring, early summer, that Mary was going to run, once we found out Jerry wasn't going to rerun, we were very excited because she's a great addition to the board, and she can help us keep moving forward what we were doing the last couple of years. And obviously, we were glad Andy decided to run again. So just welcome, Mary, and thanks, Andy.
Thank you. You're welcome. Welcome.
Comments completed. We thank you. We will now move on to roll call. Mrs. Marshall, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. McCourt?
Or here,
Yes.
whatever.
Mrs. Milad?
Here.
Ms. Reister?
Here.
Mr. Wilson?
Here.
May I have a motion to approve the agenda, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Browning.
Second?
Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
No changes this time. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you very much.
Motion carries.
Motion carried, that's right. Thank you, Andy.
The voice of experience.
Yeah. Now, moving on, I'm just following the script here. Is there any discussion from the board at all on the agenda? Okay, hearing none. We will vote.
We just voted.
We just did.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay. Oh, okay. Election of officers is next, I guess. And I will entertain a motion for a nomination for president.
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Andy Wilson as president again for next year.
Second? I will second. Any discussion? Okay. Can we have a roll call, please?
You need to ask for any other nominations?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Is there any other nomination? Okay, hearing none. Now we'll take roll call.
We need to close the nominations. I'm sorry. We need to do a vote to close the nominations first.
Okay.
Motion.
We will now entertain a motion to close the nomination.
Yes.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, thank you. Nominations are now closed. And now we will vote.
I need, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion carries.
I was just going to comment real quick. Andy's done a great job as president the last couple of years, and Pat commented on that earlier, and thought continuity of the board, those types of things, that it made sense for Andy to continue as president. So, thank you.
Okay, now we'll open nominations for vice president. May I have a nomination?
Pat, I'm sorry, we need to do a roll call vote for.
Oh, on
we
this
just-
one?
The vote
Okay.
was to close the nominations. Now we have
Okay.
to do a vote for the
Okay.
actual election.
Then we'll take a vote.
So Andy Wilson is the nomination for president. So a vote of yay means for, and a vote of nay means against.
Okay.
Okay? So as I call your name, please say yay or nay, in favor or against. Mr. Browning?
Yay.
Mr. McCourt?
Yay.
Mrs. Malad?
Yay.
Ms. Reister?
Yay.
Mr. Wilson?
Yay.
Thank you.
Motion carries. And now we can go to VP. May I have a motion for vice president, or a nomination for vice president, excuse me?
I'd like to nominate Mrs. Malad as vice president. She's
Willie?
willing and able, and has filled in well on those times
Still
when,
standing?
those times when I've forgotten what time the meeting is.
And I'll second that nomination.
We have a motion and a second. Any other nominations? Hearing none. Do we have a motion to close the nomination for vice president?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Browning. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Okay. And there again, we will now close the nominations.
I have to have a voice vote on that.
Okay?
Ask if there's any discussion.
Yep. Any discussions at all on the nomination of vice president?
I think it's a great nomination.
Okay.
And I appreciate Mrs. Malad's willingness to serve again as the board vice president. It's, although at most times it's not an onerous task, it's.
Just remember, if Andy's out,
Andy's
you're
out.
up. Yeah, it's an automatic.
Okay. We will close nominations and go for a vote.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And I declare the motion as carried. And now we will Vote on the Vice President. Mrs. Marshall?
Again, this is for calendar year 2018 for Katie Millard to be vice president. A vote of yay means for Katie to be vice president. A vote of nay means against Katie to be vice president. And as I call your name, please say yay or nay. Mr. Browning?
Yay.
Mr. McCourt?
Yes.
Mrs. Millard?
Yay.
Ms. Reister?
Yay.
Mr. Wilson?
Yay.
Thank you. Ms. Katie Millard is declared our Vice President. Mrs. Marshall, please swear in Mr. Wilson and Mrs. Millard for their roles as President and Vice President of the Fairborn Board of Education, please.
So let's take your picture. Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as members of the Board of Education of the Fairborn City School District, Greene County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is elected and qualified?
I do.
Congratulations.
Congratulations to both of you. And now I will turn the meeting back over to our President, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. McCourt. Okay, we'll move on to the organizational decisions and committee assignments, which is item 8 on the agenda. As you can see, there are a number, those of you that have the copy of the agenda, there are a number of committees and things to keep us involved and occupy our time outside of standard board meeting time. So, do we want to read through all of these, or? Okay. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Browning.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. McCourt. Any discussion on these assignments? I appreciate everybody's willingness to serve on this variety of these committees, so.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion carries. Treasurer's Office. Mrs. Marshall, anything here? Oh, yes, this is where we, yeah. Tax advance resolution, the tax budget, which we just had a hearing on, and importantly, to approve the legal counsel for the district, Bricker and Eckler, Subashi and Wildermuth, and Frost Brown Todd. May I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Ms. Reister.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Browning. Discussion? Comments?
I can make a few comments. The tax advances, the board has to approve for me to receive, for the district to receive tax advances from the county auditor. We can collect it up to 90% of what's been received by the county auditor prior to the first settlement in February or March. The annual tax budget, there were no comments at the public hearing tonight on the annual tax budget, so nothing to report there. We established a service fund, that's the board service fund for expenditures for the board members. And our legal counsel, Bricker and Eckler, is our general counsel. Frost Brown Todd, I work with them for tax appraisal, appeal cases, and Subashi Wildermuth is the legal counsel that our insurance company works for. If we were to file a claim through our insurance company, that's who they would reach out to.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, call the roll, please.
Ms. Reister?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. McCourt?
Yes.
Mrs. Millard?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes, motion carries. Superintendent's Office. So, variety of things for authorizing the superintendent to do the job that he's doing quite well for us. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Maud.
Second?
Thank you, Ms. Reister. Discussion? Comments? No? Okay. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Malag?
Yes.
Ms. Reister?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. McCourt?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes, motion carries. Okay, now we'll move into the regular board meeting. Now, the organizational meeting is concluded. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Browning.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Malad. I don't think there'll be any discussion on this.
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion carries. We are now in our regular board meeting. Move to item 12, the superintendent's report. Mr. North.
I've got two items in front of you, but I have two items to add tonight. So we'll go ahead and let's start with the first. Many people probably do not realize this, but January is identified by the Ohio School Boards Association. That's a professional association which the members of this board belong as School Board Recognition Month. And we'd like to take a moment to recognize board members who have served the past year with a certificate, as well as all the board members that are currently serving now and into the future with, I think we have 5 sets of flowers. So, Mary, you got to put a year in before you're going to get a certificate, but you get the flowers tonight. You get the flowers tonight. So, with that,
I'm going to bring these around to you guys, and then
okay.
you can come out front, and so you can get.
so we can get a picture, if you will swing around there.
Why don't we just, Nicole, we'll just
So, Pat McCourt,
come to you.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Those flowers look pretty interesting.
Mary, Andy, Jerry, and Katie. And then we're going to ask you to move to the middle so that pictures may be taken. And
We get to do the. I always wanted to be a public. Oh, wait, we're going away, hold on. How much more is it? We got our phone on. There, she's got to go over there too. Here you go. Yeah.
I'd like to add, and I've said this many times over the years, that boards really do not get anywhere near the credit that they deserve for the time that they put in. There's a lot of time that's put in that's not seen, that goes beyond just showing up for a meeting and conducting the business of the school district once a month. And when you look around and you see school districts, some school districts are known as strong and innovative and positive districts, and some not so much. But a lot of that comes from the foundation that the board sets and the tone sets. And in my experience here has been one that has been positive and is showing innovation and is moving, I think, our district into a very bright future. And again, that starts with the foundation from the Board of Education. And I've already got a contract that lasts me past most of your time, so I don't have to make this stuff up. I just say what I believe, and I do believe that. So congratulations, and on behalf of our staff, I'd like to say tonight, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Second of the 4 items I'd like to mention tonight, we have an update regarding improvements to our baseball and softball fields. And there's been a lot of work into this and a lot of work into making this very equitable between the two programs. And Mr. Jack Gayhart has led this improvement of these fields in various different ways. It was Jack that organized and put the people together to contribute approximately $34,000 to pay for new bleachers at the baseball stadium, as well as the varsity baseball stadium, as well as the varsity softball field. And in addition to that, money was collected to provide the junior high as well as the varsity softball backstops with hoods, which prevents balls from flying over the back and hitting the fans. In addition to that, Jack is also donating making an additional donation that's going to build a wall that'll be approximately 4 to 5 feet high behind the bleachers at the baseball field to kind of hide the view of all the things that go under bleachers. When you walk out to the baseball stadium, you will see the back of the bleachers, which is not really a pretty sight. So this wall will cover up all the angle iron that's going to go every which way to cover that up. So again, a lot of appreciation and thankfulness for Jack and the people that he's worked with to coordinate this and make this happen. The school district will also be contributing, but it will be in a very minor part of this program, and we will utilize funds out of our permanent improvement fund to pay for the concrete pads that the bleachers at the varsity baseball field and the varsity softball field will sit on, so that people will not be sitting in lawn chairs and mud in the spring anymore. So wanted to update the board on that work that, again, Jack Gayhart has put a lot of work into coordinating a significant part of those donations, but also taking care of the other end of it himself. 2 other things I'd like to share with you tonight before we get started. As you already know, this is a time of the year where we don't know what's going to happen the next day, whether we're going to have school or have school on time, or case of tomorrow, maybe have school over a little early. I thought for sure I'd have some middle school and high school students tweeting right now, we're getting out of school early. But one of the things I'd like to share with the audience is that, and I've had this conversation with our board, is whenever this decision's made, it's a subjective decision. In other words, it's the best guess. There's really nothing objective to it. What we're trying to do is we're trying to assess either the road conditions or the environment, or in a case like last week, the facilities, to see if things are safe for children to attend school. And in our district, it's a little unique, because when you drive around, and we do early in the morning, we start about 3 o'clock, things are different in different parts of our district. The road conditions and the weather can be different in the northern part of the district than it is in the southern part of the district. And so sometimes we make that decision the night before, but it's very rare. And the reason why is because it makes it more difficult to come up with an accurate assessment or guess of what the conditions may be like the next day. And I know this from experience. It's more popular. It's more convenient. It makes people happier when that decision's made the night before, but you can't make the best decision usually the night before. Things change too much. And so tomorrow morning, we will assess what our weather forecasters predict. I've been doing this aspect of the job for 25 years. I don't mean to offend any weather forecaster, but I don't put a lot of faith in their predictions, because they're not always accurate. And depending on which forecasts you look at, you can get a very different prediction from who may be forecasting and what either Weather Channel or news station you may be listening to. What I do try to do is be consistent and try to make that decision before 5 o'clock in the morning. And that way people can make adjustments for the day. And I would suggest if you haven't started doing that, start making those plans now, because winter is going to be with us for a while. So tomorrow morning, I will get up and I'll talk to the various people I talk to, and I don't think we're going to have to travel roads like we typically do, but we'll be checking a lot of different weather forecasts, and we're going to try to decide if it's going to be safe to run school the entire day, the normal hours, or if we should call off early. And there may be a possibility, and I want to emphasize the possibility, that we may close 2 hours early in order to get students home before a storm, if the storm ends up coming this direction. So please, when you get up in the morning, either check the school website or the TV stations. Pam starts calling TV stations and radio stations right after I call her. You can also check the different social media, and we also have an all-call system where I'm sure many of you, if you're not getting that phone call, call into central office and we'll get you on the list so you can get the phone call that tells you whether we're going to be doing something different. But tomorrow morning we'll make a decision on whether we are going to release students 2 hours early or run all day on time. And whatever that decision is, it's the best guess I can make at the time. And so bear with me, and we'll see, by at least April, we get through this, and we won't have to mess with it anymore. Last thing I want to share with you, and I was going to wait till next month, but I think this month is appropriate, especially with it being the first board meeting in this year. The building principals and central office administrators have had a lot of time to meet and get together when these schools been canceled. And so actually it's come out to help us in other ways. And what I want to make sure that we're communicating with the board and everyone else, our public, is where our emphasis truly will be this year and where we're going to stay focused. And when I say this, it may sound a little ironic, but there's a lot of things that happen in the school system, and there's lots of things that happen in our lives that kind of derail us sometimes from focusing on a pure priority, and that's education. And we're going to work very hard to stay on tracks to where that priority of educating students and doing it in a manner that's going to be the most productive way is the track that we're going to follow. And one of the things I'd like to share with you, because I think it's important that we're transparent. Since I've been involved in this district, I've been very fortunate. That's something that's been emphasized, is transparency, and we need to continue that. And we need to be forthright, and we need to be honest. And one of the things that we need to be transparent and forthright and honest about is our scores are not very good. We do not score well academically. Now, we have lots of students individually that do very well. But as a district, when you look at our scores, they're not acceptable. And we can change that. And there's lots of things that we've been talking about for some time now as an administrative team, and some things we're starting to implement, and we're working with our staffs, and we've started meeting with staff members, and we're going to develop those committees and continue to establish certain things in our system so that we can really stay on track on improving our academics. One of the things that, and one of the reasons why I share this is when you look at our third grade reading exams where, third graders have to pass this test, they've taken the first test here in the fall. Now it's in the fall and we have a few months left, but we had very low percentage of students that passed that test. Now they have 4 more tries, but us having low percentage of students passing the first time tells us we need to really get to work. On the other hand, we talked a couple board meetings, and Sue and Amy's going to be back next month to talk to the board about where we're at with our 12th graders who are in danger of not graduating. You know, we have a percentage of students that are in danger of not graduating. And again, it's not acceptable. We have to do things starting when they're in kindergarten so that the time they get to 12th grade, this does not become an issue. And there's things that we can do. And one of the things that we've started doing, and the staff's been really great about this, is communicating with parents with more frequency on how their children are doing in school. And the first half of this year, we started doing that every 2 weeks. And starting with this second semester, we're going to be communicating with parents every week. And you can even put an app-like feature on your phone. We're going to be mailing out, we've sent out information by way of students bringing it home, but now we're going to mail it out, particularly with our students in grades 6 through 12, because sometimes it doesn't get home like it does with the younger ones. So we're going to be mailing this information home so that you can use this app-like feature, touch it on your phone, and every week your child's grades will be updated. How many here have that app on your phone? How many is aware of it? Great, that's why we're going to do this, so that you have that to your availability. And we know if our parents are informed, particularly weekly, on where their children are with their grades, there's going to be a better communication, and there's going to be an improvement. I know it will be in my house, and how my child performs at school. The other thing that we're looking at is we're looking at ways to prepare our students better for the future when it comes to getting ready for college and ACT tests. Our students traditionally do not score very high on ACT scores. And part of that is because there's a knack to taking the ACT. And so one of the things we're looking at for next year, and we're not 100% sure that we're going to have this implemented, but we think we're in pretty good position to implement it, where our students will be taking an ACT prep class in high school, and so that before they graduate, they'll have a semester class that will help them prepare for the ACT course. I've shared with you, I've experienced this before, where I've seen students go up anywhere from 3 to 10 points on their ACT scores. And that's the difference between getting into colleges that you may not be able to get into with a lower score, or it's a difference between getting scholarship money that you were not eligible for. So we're going to be working on specific areas in our high school regarding aligning our AP grades that will match up with our AP scores, to implementing AC prep courses that will help students with ACT. And then it brings us to what we've looked at as far as what we need to do in this district K-12, and that is provide consistency. And what I mean by that is there's certain areas that we need to address in our district that if we are consistent, our scores will go up. After we end up implementing what we are already doing with our weekly communications, the next important step is to align our grade level guide or pacing guides and our content area, so that in every first grade class, we're teaching the same content. No matter what of the 16 classes the student may be in, we're all working from the same content. We're all working from the same pacing guide. That transfers into those students going to second grade, and we need to do the same thing in second grade and third grade and fourth grade. We've not been doing that. So you can imagine by the time students get to high school, and high school says, these kids are all over the place. Well, it's because they've been all over the place. So we've got to line that content up in every grade, and we're going to start working on that. Other things that we're going to work on is aligning our homework so that homework looks the same in every grade level. If you're in sixth grade, one sixth grader shouldn't come home and have an hour and a half of homework, and another sixth grade come home and have no homework. How much homework and how we assign homework and how we assess homework should look the same in every grade. The same goes with addressing things like late work. I'm not saying that we should not allow late work. I'm not saying that we should allow late work. I'm saying that every grade level, it should look the same. If we're going to have students, or if students are going to be able to turn in work that's late and get graded, it should be the same for one class in fourth grade as it is for the other grade in fourth grade. The other thing is extra credit. It's not a question of should students be able to earn extra credit or not, but how should it, what should extra credit look like? How should it be used? Why do we do it? And if we're going to do it, it should be the same for every grade or every class in the grade. Retesting is another area. There's inconsistencies in that, and we're going to line that up so that it looks the same for every student in each grade. That doesn't mean retesting is going to look the same in fourth grade as it does sixth grade, but it means it's going to look the same in all fourth grade classes and so on. The other thing is looking at grading of assessments and homework. Some classes, we have a heavy weight on assessments, and that just doesn't mean tests, but anything that's assessed. Some, it's a heavy weight on homework. There's best practices that we know of what percentage should be on assessments, what should be on homework, and we need to make sure that all of our staff members in every grade level is doing the same thing. And I'm going to turn this over to Sue. She's going to take a couple minutes to fill in the gaps that I've quickly gone over. But our administrative team, I think it's safe to say, is very excited knowing the benefits for our students. I think that our staff, once it's well explained and once they're involved in it and have the opportunity to develop what these different areas look like for their particular grade levels, will be very excited about it. And I know if we do this, we don't have to start, asking the big question, why is our state test scores looking the way they are? Because that's not what we need to focus on. What we need to focus on is the things that I just mentioned, and the test scores will take care of themselves, and our students will benefit, and our students will be able to compete across the board, not just the top 50, but across the board in every grade level with students anywhere around us. So Sue, with that, I'm going to turn this over to you. Thank you.
A great job at explaining it. As Mr. North said, the one thing that we're looking at is developing consistency across our grade levels and across our district. And I cannot remember a time where I've seen administrators so excited and so driven to address some of these issues. When teachers prepare to be teachers in college, they prepare on content, the standards. They talk about or learn about how to teach and through different strategies. But there are a lot of the areas that Mr. North just mentioned that we really don't have instruction either in the college prep level or once we become teachers. Generally, teachers do what they've experienced when they were going through school. And so for as many different teachers as we have, you can imagine we have many different practices. So our job is to work with our staff, and our administrators over the last 2 weeks have had many meetings on these topics. Today, we were in our curriculum meeting, and they just said, hey, can we just order pizza? And we need to get this written down today because we're ready to take this to our staff. So they started by defining in each of the areas some foundational statements that they're going to take back to their staffs to begin the conversations. And this issue of consistency also starts with our administrators. They want to make sure when they go back to their staffs that the information that we're discussing, we're all coming from the same perspective. So that's why it was important for them to identify, and they started with the general statement that grades should reflect a student's knowledge and understanding. And from these statements, each of the building principals will invite their staff, anyone who is interested in participating, to have, they will have meetings after school. They will really discuss, and they're going to get that teacher input on what does this look like for our grade level. And then with these guiding principles that they've already established, that will provide some of the consistencies, but each of the buildings, we're going to come back together and make sure that there's a flow, that we're building our students from kindergarten through high school, rather than having a standard in kindergarten that might be higher than a standard in 4th or 5th grade. So this consistency in instructional practices in these day-to-day things that we haven't paid a lot of attention to, we believe can really propel us when it comes to our academic achievement. That's it.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. North.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Norris.
Okay, we'll move on to recognition of visitors. If anyone wishes to address the board, please step up to the podium and the microphone, state your name and address and your purpose for addressing the board, and limit your comments to 5 minutes.
My name is Donna Wilson, 442 Zimmer Drive. I am the new liaison for the schools from the City Council, as Marilyn took over some other responsibilities, including Deputy Mayor. So I will be working with whatever needs to happen in cooperating with the city and the schools. Have formed some good partnerships, and we want to continue that. I have some news from City Council. One of the things is, of course, we are going to make sure that the building inspector works very closely on the construction of the new schools. And they've already been talking, and the city will cooperate in any way that they need, including getting the parking figured out at the primary school when they have both the primary and the intermediate school there. Our police chief has said that's one of the reasons he's going to be retiring. But I wanted to bring you up, well, I will also tell you something else. Last year, and I'm not sure if it was 2 years that they did this program of the College Now, which is they had AmeriCorps service members at the high school who were helping students to just walk their way through if they wanted to go to college, what classes they needed to take, what tests, how to fill out the FAFSA forms, and so forth. And unfortunately, they did not get funding for this year, so the program is not working this year. But fortunately, we had 2 donors, an ex-Fairborn student, alumni, I should say. Michael Saylor has agreed to fund 1 spot for the AmeriCorps, one service member. And then I'm not sure exactly who else is sponsoring the other one, but we will have 2 people for next year. And I am going to be the person who is the supervisor for the service members. Once you do something like I have supervised 2, then, they get you into that rhythm of, okay, now you've done that, so we need a sponsor for this, we need a supervisor for this program. But it's a very important program, and I look forward to doing it. I've already been talking to Amy Gayhart, and we're both excited about that opportunity. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about is just bring you up to date on the Fairborn Apartments. The city has been working very closely with the HUD inspectors in Columbus. And we have not in the past gotten the cooperation that we've needed at the local level. So we have worked with the Columbus people. They came down, they went through and looked at the Fairborn Apartments and they condemned 2 of the units. The HUD inspectors said that it was the worst they've ever seen, and so we have a lot of work to do there. And but our inspection team, the city inspector, and the city, I can't remember her name her title right now, community development, have been working very, very closely with the residents out there. And we still have some of the people who have had to vacate the apartments go to a hotel, and they're still there as far as we know. And it's not the best situation, but it's better than living in what they were. So we are working very closely and trying to do as much as we can to bring these units up to livable standards. And the last thing that I have is that on the planning board this past week, Menards asked for approval for a new store, and it is going to be announced. We are voting on it on City Council on Monday, and it will be located east of the new Kroger store. And so they are going to be, of course, you know how buildings take a long time to do, but they are looking for an opening in of Thanksgiving of 2019. So that's one of the big things that we have going on, and hopefully that will bring more businesses and other things to Fairborn. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Donna.
you.
It's nice to have you.
Anyone else?
Andy, if I may, Donna, I just have to let you know from the North household, the announcement of the Dunkin' Donuts tops Menards, but
I didn't hear that one.
USA.
That's going to be up at 5 Points, where the old US Bank was.
Okay.
Between
Oh, okay.
West Road and Dayton Old Springs Road on that
Right at the point.
triangle.
Yep.
Right.
And I heard rumor of a Little Caesars. Is that true?
I
You
haven't
haven't heard that?
that.
No, okay. Well, I'm hoping.
We're always the last to know.
That Dunkin' Donuts will be in a perfect spot when both schools are
Oh, yeah.
just down the road from them.
Great.
Yes.
Great. Thanks for sharing.
Yes, thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no one, will close recognition of visitors and move on to item 14, approval of minutes of the December 7th regular board meeting. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Browning.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Reister. Any discussion? Corrections, additions? Okay, vote.
I'm good if you're good.
We're
All
good.
those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion carries. Item 15, Treasurer's Report. Mrs. Marshall.
Thank you. So I've been talking to Ms. Geisel, our technology supervisor, about the possibility, I just started this conversation tonight, though, so keep that in mind, about the possibility of putting a portable screen up on this side of the room here and turning the projector this way, so that way, maybe in future board meetings, we don't have to get up and walk around for my... So we're gonna work on that. This month, we're going over the November 30th, 2017 month-end financials. Our total revenues were close to $700,000 higher than the previous year. We're right in line with our forecast overall. We had received about 45.32% of what's been forecast for the year. There was one adjustment that I'll probably end up making in May right now for, where is it? This other revenues, all other revenue sources. It's coming in a little bit higher than what I anticipated. But other than that, we're right on target. Total expenditures were about $600,000 higher. This is going to be a little higher, well, a lot higher actually. We did increase our transfers to the Permanent Improvement Fund this year. But also, we didn't make those transfers until December, or maybe January. I think December. I think we did it in December. So this number will look bigger next month when we go over this. But overall, we're right on target with our forecast, with about 40% spent of the total forecast amount. Our fund balance, we had $24.6 million in the general fund, unencumbered. That's just straight cash. We had outstanding encumbrances about $5.7 million with an unencumbered balance of about $18.9 million. And it's close to $4 million higher than it was the same time last year. This is just a rolling cash balance for each month compared to the same time last year, the roller coaster that our cash flows do. As of November 30th, we had about average monthly expenses of about $2.4 million in personnel costs and $1.1 million in everything else, for about $3.6 million every month that we spend on average. We had 337 certified employees and 284 classified employees, and that includes substitutes. Investments, there weren't much changes with investments. This is our operating investments. And this is our bond investments. So we have this staggered to match the cash flows with the building project. This is the reconciliation. We reconciled to zero, and we can see it. I'm very proud of that. I remember it again. So, and we had $46,000 in our payroll clearance account at the end of November. And that's all I have. Is there any questions from the board? Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Marshall. Always good to see the healthy cash balance.
And we're right on target with the plan, which
Yes.
is good. Which is good.
Okay, we'll move on to item 7, the consent agenda, which runs through page 8. And call your attention to page 7 at the top, item 10. We have a resignation for retirement, Janice Wright from the high school. 32 years of service in education, all of it with Fairborn City Schools. So greatly appreciate those years of service and dedication to our school district. And the rest of it is routine personnel office, business office, and student services items. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Browning.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Malad. Any discussion or additional comments?
I just want to make mention that the Records Commission did meet on January 8th. Mr. McCourt, Gary Walker, and myself, we met to approve our records to be destroyed on Thursday, April 26, 2018. So, just an FYI.
One of those exciting meetings. Of,
Yes.
It was riveting.
Riveting.
Yes.
Okay, call the roll, please.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mrs. Maude?
Yes.
Mr. McCourt?
Yes.
Ms. Reister?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes, motion carries. Item 17, the treasurer's office, the approval of the financial report, and the permanent improvement, and the tax levy item. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. McCourt.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Reister. Any discussion or comments?
I will make a comment. The permanent appropriations modification, that is for the grant that we received from Green Giving for the money that was donated through the fundraising efforts with Jack Gayhart with the baseball and softball fields.
Okay.
So that's a change for that because we weren't expecting that this year, so we have to increase that. And the resolution accepting the amounts and rates, that's so we can receive tax revenue from the county auditor.
That's important.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Minor importance there. Any other comments or questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. McCourt?
Yes.
Ms. Reister?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mrs. Mawad?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes, motion carries. And we have a separate item here, The November 17th financial report of checks paid. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Browning. I'll second. Discussion, comments?
I just want to mention, so everybody's aware, that Ms. Reister works for Gordon Food Services. We pay them once a month, and since the board approves our payments every month, she'll need to abstain from the vote. So that's why we have it broken out separately on the agenda. So it'll be like this every month.
Okay. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. McCourt?
Yes.
Ms. Reister?
Abstain?
Mrs. Mawad?
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 18, gifts and donations. Mr. McCourt.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Once again, we always talk about this, but people every month seem to be coming up with more and more donations that help the district and our kids in it. So going down the list this evening, Thomas and Connie, and let me say, is that Walazzo? I hope I'm saying that correctly. $300 to the senior class for the New York trip in memory of their grandson, Travis Williams, who would have been a member of the class of 2018, and their daughter, Angie Couch Wilson. Also, Philip and Mary Spar. Mary Spar is a former Board of Education member, and once again, it seems like when people serve and they end up finish their service, they don't forget, and they keep giving. So thanks to Philip and Mary Spar, $100 donation to the Fairborn City School Orchestra program, and Chuck and our own Sue Brackenhoff, a portable snow machine and supplies to the Fairborn Intermediate School music program, valued at $145. Dr. Brackenhoff, thanks to you. And
Thank you.
Chuck? And that's all I have.
I don't know if they really want more snow inside the building. I have a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Browning.
Second?
Thank you, Mr. McCourt. Vote.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion carries. Okay. Item 19, there's no vote item on this. Acknowledgement of the funds made available through coordination efforts of Jack Gayhart for the baseball and softball fields in the amount of $34,295. We greatly appreciate those efforts for improvement to our sports facilities, not only for our kids, but for the image that it presents for Fairborn City Schools, for the teams that come to play against us. So those are greatly appreciated.
And Mr. Wilson, if I may add, I go back a long time with Jack Gayhart. I graduated high school here in '71, went on to broadcasting school and was working as a disc jockey, and had an opportunity on a couple occasions to work in some nightclubs here and there. And Jack was, I think one of his businesses that he started, he would go around and fill the jukebox with records. We used to play records back then. And that's where I guess
That's a long time ago.
yeah, that was a long time ago. But Jack had a partner, and the two of them went around to a lot of the businesses in town who had jukeboxes, and that's kind of the way I remember Jack. But, Jack, that man has always been here. He's always got the kids at hand and in mind. He always wants to do a first-class job, a supporter, and has been a supporter for a long time. And remembering Miss Audrey and Whitey, Jack's parents, they as well were good supporters of our district and the kids in it. So, Jack just keeps giving and giving and giving. And Jack's getting older, and I hope and pray that his health continues to be good for him. But he's been a long-time supporter of this district, and I thank him for that.
Any other comments? We'll move on to item 20, new business for the Board of Education. We have a settlement agreement, OSBA membership, a couple of items there, and some telephone equipment issues, and an out-of-state leave item. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Reister.
Second?
Thank you, Mr. McCourt. Any discussion? Comments?
I'll mention the resolution to request approval from the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission for sole sourcing our telephone equipment. We are upgrading our telephone systems. I believe we've talked about it at the
Yeah.
board meeting
Mhm.
throughout the district. So, and we're also building new buildings, so we're going to move those phones because they'll be
Crazy.
relatively new. And it'll be a savings of about $15,000 for the district for us to get those moved, so.
One of the rare things that they'll let us move from one building to
Well,
another.
this is for us to ask for approval, so they've not,
Yeah. But that they'll even consider.
yeah, they're considering it, so, yeah.
Okay, call the roll, please.
Ms. Reister?
Yes.
Mr. McCourt?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mrs. Malad?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes, motion carries. We'll move on to board member good of the order. Mr. Browning?
Okay. Just a couple comments. The winter sports are in full session right now, and if anybody gets a chance, go out and watch our student athletes, our cheerleaders, our coaches, because they're all working extremely hard as we go through this sports season. Fairborn Cement, the other night, because I'm the board member that works with the music club, so at the music club meeting the other night, and I know Whitney was there, Fairborn Cement, which has been a longtime company in Fairborn, came in and donated $5,000 to the Fairborn Music Club to pay for uniforms. And the important thing there was that's what put them over the top where they could get the order put in to have uniforms in time for next fall marching season. So I just want to thank Fairborn Cement for their donation and their continued support of Fairborn schools. Also, our buildings last week, people put, and I don't think the community recognized the amount of time that people were putting in behind the scenes. I know Mark did, I know Gene did, our custodians, our maintenance, we had outside contractors. The amount of time that they put in to try to get those buildings back in shape for our kids to be presentable for the kids. And the other thing that it did for me, it reinforced the decision to replace those two buildings and the decision the community made and the support from the community to replace those. Now, just, we gotta do it fast, but we gotta do it right. We gotta do it right, which is what we're doing. The last thing I wanted to say is, Mark, thanks for the update on what we're doing to address academics, because that's one of the reasons we hired you. And you know, you've been here, what, a little over a year and a half, 2 years, and, you know, we're getting to the important stuff for the kids now. And I just wanted to thank you for that, because I think it's a great outline. So that's it.
Okay, Mr. McCourt?
Oh, yes, I see her putting on her sweater, but I would like to thank Whitney for coming back home to us. She was away for a while, we sure did miss her, and we appreciate her. She always gives us a good bit of press in the newspaper, so Whitney, welcome back. Can't go out again, you're here for good. And just to echo what Jerry Browning was saying about everyone, and I know Mark, and I do not want to forget our building principals, our building administrators. These people were here when they didn't need to be. Of course, the maintenance, Pete Dysinger and his group, the custodial staff. I mean, you know, you think that these people have certain hours of a day, and they do their jobs, and they do it well. But boy, when something like this happens, when you get water pipes breaking and water in hallways, and I mean, we were robbing parts on one side of town to fix something on this side of town, and we were laying down new tile, and you know, this is an effort that you know, these people, and I know they do it out of the love of the district and the love for their job and the love for the kids, and I just can't thank them enough. Gene, I know Gene and I talked earlier, and on these snow days, Gene told me the other day that he was in the office at 3:30 in the morning, and he beat Mark by a half hour. so you need to work on that. But,
And he lives farther away.
yeah, and he does, that's right. But, you know, this again, nobody really realizes, you know, when you see it on the TV, 2-hour delay or school's closed, a lot of work has been done prior to that announcement. So, Gene, thank you. Mark, thank you. And again, to all the district for what they do. I'm glad Jerry went first, but I do want to echo the Fairborn Cement. I've been working with Fairborn Cement for 29 years now, prior to my retirement, and they've been through a few owners, and if you get a chance to read tonight's paper, they're on the front page with the banner and with our kids from the music group receiving that $5,000 check. But it's not the companies, because companies come and go, but it's the people there. And John Miller, the president, Neil Elick, the plant manager, and all the other people out there that I've grown to know and love. But these people, they continue doing. And you know, where do you stop? From the Christmas tree to, you know, to anything that needs to be done, these people do it. I don't know if many remember, but the big rock out in front of the high school, that was from the cement plant, and they brought it over and they helped set it. So, you know, they do a great job, and so we appreciate them as well. And Donna, thank you for your report. It's great to see new things coming into the city, and hopefully we'll see old bad things leave the city. And, you know, I think we're working well together, probably better than I've seen a board and the city work together, and I hope to improve on that. And thanks again, Donna, for all you do for us. And that's all I have.
Ms. Reister?
Well, I don't have a whole lot to report since I'm new to this role.
You've got a couple hours.
How's the past 2 hours been?
First, I want to thank everybody for your support in pushing me, no names mentioned, Jerry, into this. So thank you for that. I just want to echo the donation to the music club. I have kids who are in the music program. I'm a band mom. Spend a lot of time. The band parents do 40-plus fundraisers a year, trying to, for the past 2, maybe 3 years, trying to get enough money to get new uniforms. They are not cheap. And our music club, thankfully, to an amazing band director, is growing every year. So even if we stuck with the uniforms that we have, we wouldn't have enough if we gained more students next year in the marching band. So that's an amazing thing, and it's very exciting. And then I want to also echo just getting out there and supporting the students, whether it's at home games or away games. And I have to say that I've noticed our students maturing and being more respectful when they're at games, both home and away. So I just wanted to make mention of that.
Mrs. Blood?
Down to me, all right. So between last meeting and this one, I got to attend the literacy night at Fairborn Primary. And I just wanted to give a special shout out to our city council and city leaders who were there doing readings and for the youngest kids. So Tim Steininger and Rob Hoffman and city manager Rob Anderson were all there reading books to kids, and it was a fabulous night. They were lined up out the door. It probably took them about 25 minutes to get everybody who was waiting in the parking lot inside. So it was a steady stream of people, and that place was packed. So it was a really fun night. They had Santa and cookies and Olaf and the Grinch and everybody and pictures, and yeah, who else? You were there, right?
Yeah,
Rowdy,
Rowdy
yes. Oh
Raider.
yeah, Rowdy
And Blue
Raider.
was
And
there.
yes, and Blue, home from college. Poor guy couldn't see through the mask, but he did a good job being led around. So it was a really, really nice night. Welcome, Mary. It's really nice to have you. I always look forward to a female perspective around here. And Andy, thank you for coming back. Your leadership is always very much appreciated. And Mark, kudos, man, because I needed my kid to go back to school. Thank you for everything that you've done, and Jean, working so hard, everybody, that I know it was not what you wanted last week, and some very frustrating times, but your leadership and guidance in getting us through that was very much appreciated. To have them all go back this week, we'll take it. So good luck tomorrow. Anxiously awaiting your call.
About 5 o'clock, you'll get it.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Well, in the realm of divide and conquer, while the event was going on at the primary school, I was attending the annual Chamber of Commerce dinner. So, I don't know, I think it sounds like the event at the primary, or the primary school is a lot more fun than the
Probably, yes.
the chamber. So,
I've been to that dinner.
coming up, the week of the 21st is Public Schools Week. So I have submitted for their consideration to the mayor for a proclamation for them to declare that to be Public Schools Week in Fairborn. From this morning's Dayton Daily News, it looks like there's some movement on the graduation rules for the next 2 classes. So, you know, as scary as the class of 2008 was, they've realized that 2009 and 2010 had the potential for being even worse. So it looks like they're going to take some
19.
19 and 20.
Just under a time warp
Yeah.
there.
Sorry.
It's only a decade behind.
It's not the first time recently I've done that. So anyway, it looks like there's going to be some movement to loosen up a little bit on the graduation requirements for the following 2 years. So hopefully they'll come to that. This article here in the International Society for Technology and Education is the workforce of the future, and the things that they point out that are going to be of critical need in the workforce for the future are things that you can't measure on a test. It says the skills include teaching, social perceptiveness, service orientation, and persuasion. Our findings also confirm the importance of higher order cognitive skills such as complex problem solving, originality, fluency of ideas, and active learning. So, you know, how do you measure those on a test? So those are some of the challenges that we face, because if you think of the graduating class now of the leaps and bounds of technology that occurred from when they started in kindergarten to what they're facing now, it's pretty phenomenal. And the pace of that is not slowing down at all. So, also like to welcome Mary to the board. It'll be from some of our text message exchanges, it's already proving to be some entertainment going on in it, you know, to get our jobs done here. So welcome, Mary, and I also greatly appreciate the supportive community in the community for our reelection and for again for the support for the new buildings, which will be breaking ground for hopefully towards the end of this school year or
Next week.
next week.
No, it'll be frozen.
So, and that's all I have. So, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Browning.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Reister.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion carries 7:14.